Hello friends and welcome back to Our Life Beginnings and Always. Okay, now I believe from where we left, wait, where are we up to? Okay, cool. So we have one left to go and then we'll be moving on to step 3, or the beginning of step 3 at the very least. So that's exciting. It's something to look forward to. Oh, and the last one was dinner. That was right. I remember a very awkward dinner. I really hope we actually get to see that sleepover happen. But road trip should be interesting. Is that just going to be with my family? Am I going to be going with Cove's family? I guess we'll see. Considering it's the last one, I feel like there might be... Well, of course there's going to be some drama, but I'm feeling stuff with especially Cove's family. That situation feels like it's prime and ready for exploding, you know? Not necessarily in a bad way, but, you know, let's just continue and see how it goes. Even though you were awake, the sun had barely peeked its head above the horizon and the sky above was still dark, though lightening by the minute. Usually you wouldn't be up so early, especially during summer vacation, but today was different. Today, instead of the lazy days you were used to, everything around you was a flurry of activity, as both your family and Cove's prepared for what lay ahead. Also, it's both of us, that's exciting. Because parked in the street just outside your house was a massive RV camper, so big you couldn't even see Cove's house behind it. That kind of, I think for the first time now I actually understand the housing situation. It's okay, it's directly across the street. Did I just miss that if it was said earlier in the game? Anyway, his parents had rented the RV for a few days to take him on a short road trip to see the Redwood National Park. You glanced at Cove, who was standing nearby, taking in the scene in front of him. The prospect of the trip had to be a mixed bag for him. It was only 3 days, so it seemed he was dealing with it as best he could. Especially now that you and your family were joining them. Yeah, come on, that'll be fun, surely. You weren't sure how exactly it had happened. You knew your parents and Cove spoke to each other often, and somewhere along the way plans were made after Cliff offered to share the space. The parents all thought it was a fantastic idea. They all just want us to get together, you know? They think it's cute too. You had already gotten a good look inside while helping to load everything in, and you had to admit that while it was a really big car, fitting that many people inside was going to be snug. Move it or lose it, kiddo! Mom bustled past with a cooler in one hand and a large bottle of water onto the other. She was upbeat for this early in the morning. Okay, not so much. Oh, that looks like a very cozy nightgown though. Ma, however, seemed to be on the other side of the wavelength. She followed behind her wife, dragging her feet on every step. I'm going to need a whole jug of coffee once we hit the road. Let's go in the middle ground. You know what? No, I want to be excited. I'm pumped. You stretched your arms out and took in some deep breaths. The air was still a little damp from dew, but you didn't mind it. Oh, how's Elizabeth feeling? And then at the end of the chain came your sister. She had a bone to pick before the trip officially started. Her rattling of critiques added some level of normalcy to everything new going on. I don't get why I can't sleep in the bed tonight. Patch is the youngest, and I'll never fall asleep in that loft. We're trying to make things fair on everyone. If you want to play the older card, you should be offering to take the loft both nights. It's important for big siblings to make sacrifices for their younger ones. Ooh. Elizabeth huffed, not happy with that answer in the slightest, and folded her arms, leaning back against the side of the RV. What's wrong with the loft? I mean, I've never been in an RV. This seems cool. Like a bunk bed. The trip plans had been nailed down prior, the sleeping arrangements included. Elizabeth still held on to her objections with them. There was a main area of the RV with a couch, loft, and some floor space. At the end of the car was a room with a large bed. Your mums were sharing the bed. Kira was on the couch, and her father and son intended to sleep on the floor. Oh, dang, I mean, yeah, okay. The adults determined you and Elizabeth would switch between the small loft above the driver's seat and sharing the bed with mums. That's fair. That sounds, I mean, fair enough, I guess. It is a bit unfair that Cove has to sleep on the floor, but sleeping in the loft sounds fun to me. Let's be excited about it. It would be a new experience for you, and it sounded kinda cool. All right, you lot. Does everyone have everything they need? We're heading out in 5 minutes. Now's the time to double check. You don't want to forget something important. Her eyes are so pretty. At the word, Elizabeth yelped and dashed back into the house, her bedhead hair bouncing behind her as she went. Ma came over and gave you a smile, setting her hands on her hips. How about you, Patch? Do you have all your clothes packed? Toiletries, deodorant, floss? Anything else you can think of? Are you questioning me? I have it all. I'm prepared. I make lists. I'm a list person. Wanting to make sure everything was organized and ready to go, you had packed the night before and set your alarm too. Yep, I'm all good. That's great. We'll have to wait for the ones who weren't organized, but we'll be heading off shortly. With a few minutes left to spare before leaving, you mentally went over what you had packed for the trip. Clothes, a pillow and blanket, usual day-to-day gear for most people. You also had more personal things, such as a ukulele. I pack a ukulele. A couple things to read, for sure. A stuffed animal, yeah. Yes. Maybe. Yes, I bring all of this, especially music, though. With so much time going to be spent driving in the car, you want to make sure you'd be able to have some music to put on. If I don't have music playing directly into my ears on a road trip, I will throw up. Guaranteed. A couple things to read, of course. You had packed one of your old favorites and a new one you'd never tried before. You knew you'd have plenty of time for them both on such a long drive. Yes, I can't sleep without blankie. Without fail, it always made you feel more comfortable whenever you went somewhere new. It was like taking a little piece of home away with you. One time when I was like 7, I went away with my family to Italy and I brought this little toy kookaburra with me because I didn't want to bring Blanky because I knew if I lost Blanky, my heart will break and my world would end. But I brought this little kookaburra with me and it was great. And then we were staying in Manarola, which is one of my favorite places in the world. It's beautiful. And we packed up the beds and we went to the next place. And in the next place, I was getting ready for bed. I'm like, oh no, where's my kookaburra? And it turned out I'd left the kookaburra in the bed at the place we're staying at Manarola. And I felt like I had betrayed Australia. Because in my stupid 7-year-old brain, I was like, they don't know about kookaburras in Italy. Oh no, they're going to discover about kookaburras and they're going to come and take all the kookaburras from us. What have I done? And then I had left the kookaburra there. So of course I was also sad that I didn't have my kookaburra anymore. But luckily, my parents were like, well, this child is very upset and this is unbearable, so let's go to a toy shop and pick out a new one. So I got a tiny little crocodile toy named Sam, and he's currently sitting on my bookshelf next to an owl bear and a cranium rat. So, you know, a happy little anecdote for you. It was like taking a little piece of home away with you. Of course, gotta bring my Switch. I gotta play Fire Emblem. The dive to Redwood National Park would take an entire day one way, so you wanted to make sure you had a way to entertain yourself while traveling down back and play Mario Kart with everyone. It'd be great, and everyone would get sick of me after 2 games. A camera, of course. It was just a little pocket camera you'd gotten from your mum's, but you couldn't miss an opportunity to take some new snaps. Of course, pencils and paper, got draw all the trees. You had to be prepared in case you saw something to sketch at the park, or if you had to write anything down, or if you needed just to pass the time doodling. I overpack for every single trip that I go on, if you cannot tell. Sure, we might go out. You kind of dreaded the idea of trying to apply it nicely while in a cramped RV, but it was something you wanted to keep on hand. Yeah, you never know. A ball. You know, I'm not a huge sports person, but my brother's been really into volleyball lately, and occasionally we go down to the park and like hit it back and forth, so that's been nice. I guess I'm just taking everything with me for this 3-day trip. It was fun to break out a ball to play around in the field with behind your house, so you thought everyone might enjoy having something to do while at the park. I guess that's everything. Yep. Hi, Kira. Okay, let's try and do this. Hey, let me take that for you, Patch. I'll stow it in the RV. There's a few spots left for it to it'll fit. Oh, I guess that was acceptable. You let Kira take your bag and gave her a grateful smile. With nothing left to do, you watched the others getting ready for the trip. Kira and Cliff seemed to have the most energy of anyone. They were finishing packing the suitcases away while your mums had gone to lock up the house. They high-fived whenever another one got crammed into the storage compartments of the vehicle. Even though your own parents were more low-key than Cove's, you could tell they were both excited for the trip. It had been a while since your family had been away anywhere together. Elizabeth skipped towards the RV, a bag slung over her shoulder, and you were surprised to see she seemed more optimistic about the whole ordeal now. Usually she wasn't one to exit the confines of her room unless it was for TV or food or to leave her family behind to be with friends. You would have thought 3 whole days packed in an RV with 6 others would be too much for her, but it was a nice surprise. You supposed any vacation was better than no vacation in her mind. Cove had been pretty quiet so far, and more than anything, seemed to be overwhelmed by the situation. Of course, the poor thing has anxiety. He's probably freaking the hell out. I think I'm excited for the trip. Let's make the most of this. It was great to get away and explore new places. Soon, the miscellaneous remaining tasks had all been wrapped up. Ooh, look at this. Cool. Oh, so that's what the loft is. I think that'd be fun. Like claustrophobic and kind of scary, but also maybe cozy if you put like fairy lights up in there. There could be some. Everyone piled into the RV. It was officially time for the trip to start. And it did. Cliff took the first shift driving. He cautiously navigated the massive car out of the narrow neighborhood streets. It was touch and go for the first part of the journey. Your mums and Kira were all huddled in the front, trying to get a view of how much space they had on each side. There was a sense of relief when the first long leg of the trip was hit, and the RV would only need to go down one stretch of highway for miles. The mum group cleared out of the driver's area, leaving Cove's dad to it, taking more comfortable seats around the main cabin. You felt like you could finally relax now too. Time slipped by as morning faded away. Ooh, what are we going into space? We're hitting warp speed! Before you realized it, the engine of the RV came to a stop, but only halted for a few moments as Cliff climbed out of the driver's seat and Mum took over. Ma was sitting shotgun, giving Mum a quick tutorial on the controls, as it was her first time driving. Full stop! That'd be so funny. It was her first time driving anything this large. Cliff groaned as he headed towards the rest of you, stretching his arms above his head and loosening up his muscles. Nice sunnies, Cliff. God, your hair is beautiful. We're making good progress. Yeah, maybe you should take a nap in the back for a while. That was a long haul you just did, and I know you're on less sleep than usual. Cliff waved a hand, that trademark grin of his slipping into place. I don't need sleep. I've still got a few miles in the old tank. Alright, I like her bracelets. Is that new? That's really cute. Look at how long her hair is. How did I never notice that? What the hell? That's like past your butt. He flexed an arm, showing off his muscles to drive the point about how resilient he was home. And Kira rolled her eyes in amusement. Dad, everybody has to sleep. Oh wait, no. Wrong tone. Dad, everybody has to sleep. There we go. Cove groaned at the tough guy act, though Cliff seemed, bloody hell, though Cliff simply chuckled and ruffled his son's hair. Are you going to be driving again anytime soon, Mr. Holden? I want to know so I can prepare. Did anyone pack some rope? I might need... Oh my god, I'm sorry. I did not jump to that conclusion. There are no seatbelts up here. Elizabeth called down from where she was lounging in the loft above the driving compartment. She was laying on her back, her hair falling over the side and swinging around as the RV started up again and took off down the road. That's dangerous with your siblings around. If I was doing that and I had hair long enough to fall over the edge like that, my brother would yank that for sure. A bag of potato chips was balanced on Elizabeth's stomach, and she tossed a couple in her mouth right as Cliff held her hand to his chest, pretending to be offended by the remark. Kira laughed lightheartedly. Lucky for all of us, we have enough adults to cover the shifts today. He won't be driving again until tomorrow. Oh, yes, that'd be so funny. But it's fine. They're joking, but I also don't know what stance to take on it, so I'll just be quiet. You didn't have anything to add to the conversation, but it was pretty funny all the same. Mum then shouted back in her seat to join in the conversation, a playful smile tilting her lips. What if we get in a car crash? What I'm more worried about is this old monster getting us there and back again before falling apart. It looks as though it was built in the early 90s. It must be older than some of the occupants. That's just the aesthetic of the decor. It's not that old, I think. Did you ask what year the model was before you rented it? Kira wrinkled her nose in thought. Yes, Yes, I did. I just can't remember what the answer was. Cliff chuckled at her, while the rest of you let out a collective sigh. The RV lurched a little as it picked up speed, and you held onto the ladder to the loft to keep your balance. You felt something graze the top of your head before a weight settled on your white hair. When you tilted your chin up carefully to look, you heard the rustling of a bag of chips and realized Elizabeth had rested the end of it on your head. She gestured to the opening, silently offering, "Oh, that's so nice," silently offering to share her snack. "That's nice of her." "Yeah, I'll take some. Thank you, buddy." Reaching up, you scooped up some chips. After that, the weight of the packet left your scalp. You happily munched away as the conversation continued on, and you got closer and closer to your destination. "I want to chat with Cove." Cove! The day flew by with the group of you chatting, playing games, and passing the time together before finally arriving at the park and setting up for the night. Ma was closing the windows while everyone got ready for bed, saying goodnight to the others as she made her way to the back room. You had all had dinner together while still driving, and some hours after you had arrived at your destination and found a spot to park in for the rest of your stay. Giving a look across the front of the RV, you noticed almost everyone there was already dozing off where they were, with Cove having completely fallen asleep curled up in the passenger seat. He must have done so while Kira was driving the last leg, and they had decided not to disturb him. Oh, what a cutie. Kira herself was the only one up there who was still awake, flipping through a magazine next to a portable light from her spot on the couch. It seemed Mr. Holden needed to sleep despite his claims. You followed your mums into the back room and closed the door behind you before crawling onto the bed with them. It was a queen-size bed, so there was enough space for the three of you together without too much squishing. Get a good rest, Patch. We've got a big day ahead of us tomorrow. I'm looking forward to the bushwalk in the morning. It's been a long time since I was out in nature like this. There'll be plenty for us to see. You stayed awake for a little while longer while your mums whispered about the park and forests in general. With the sound of their voices in the background, eventually you nodded off to sleep. Oh, what are we gonna do? This is exciting. The next morning, you were up bright and early, preparing for the day ahead. Yes, I slept well. I don't think I would ever sleep well in this situation, but we can dream. You fell asleep before you knew it and had woken up rested. Ma whined a bit about the firmness of the mattress, but Mum had only encouraged her to enjoy the trip while she could. While looking for a spot to get ready, you had some trouble finding a space of your own as the others were doing the same thing. Cove was perched on top of the counter, brushing his hair and tucking up his legs every time someone wanted to move past. The parents were checking, double-checking, and triple-checking that you had everything, to the point where you had stopped listening to them altogether. You knew you wouldn't be returning to the RV at all that day, but by the look of the backpacks that were packed up and ready to go, you doubted anything was missing from them. Oh, this is beautiful. Wow. So cool. All the vines are so pretty. Those trees are freaking huge. Dang. It didn't take much longer until you all exited the RV in a bustle and headed into the Redwood National Park. I haven't seen trees this big before. All the foresty area around here is just like lots of bushland, so. Wow. Wow indeed. Cove had his head tilted up towards the canopy of trees, his eyes wide as he took in the massive trunks on either side of you. You knew that the redwood trees here were considered the tallest trees on Earth, but you weren't prepared for exactly how huge they would be in person. Smile, you two! You spun just in time for Kira to snap a pic of you and Cove together, before she pointed her camera at Cliff, trying to get a shot despite his weak protests that she should just enjoy the moment. Your parents were walking behind the group a little, with Mum telling Ma some information she had read about the park in a brochure. Ma listened happily while looking around and taking in the sights, every now and then asking a question or making a joke about something Mum had said. You smiled at them, thinking your mum must have read a lot of pamphlets to know so much about the park. Maybe you should just come and work here as a tour guide if you know so much about the place. Elizabeth teased, earning a squeeze on the nose from your mum. She seemed to be enjoying herself, but she thought that that might just be because she was amused by everyone else's reactions. I don't know. I think The trees are very impressive. I love big trees. It's so cool. I'd love to see redwood trees one day. Surrounding you on either side, the enormous trees shot up into the sky, the sunlight peeking through their canopy and speckling the path in front of you. The sheer size of the redwoods made you feel like a tiny ant bustling along through the forest. The adults had decided on some casual nature walks rather than any serious hiking, and you strolled along at your own pace, taking in the scenery. Elizabeth sped up a little, smirking at Cove as she fell into place between the two of you, and immediately you could tell by her expression she was going to say something taunting. Hit me with it. I can't believe our families are actually on vacation together. She threw her arms out, speaking with a genuine sense of bewilderment. I would have joked about something like this happening, but now I'm not sure I want to give him any more ideas. Cove ignored her completely and continued walking along. Just watch. Next year they'll be talking about their new amazing idea. She put on a fake deep voice, deeper than her own. Oh, I gotta do a voice within a voice. We should just sell our houses and move in together. Think of how much we'd save on the mortgage. It was clear that Elizabeth was being sarcastic. Cove simply shook his head, not really bothered by her. You supposed he was used to it by this point. But seriously, we really do act like we're a single family just because we live across the street from each other. Elizabeth gave you and Cove a look, her eyes glistening with mischief as she leered at you. Don't. I think I know what you're gonna do. Oh, okay, well that's fine. I thought she was gonna be like, you two are like siblings, and I'm like, cool, well that's ruined everything for me, thank you. Maybe one day we will be related, legally anyway. I mean, maybe. She said it as though she was a gossipy old lady. We all know what's going on, Elizabeth. Oh, look at Cove. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. But she almost immediately dropped the tone and nonchalantly said her real thoughts. At least, that's what Ma thinks. Really, Ma? Jeez Louise. Cove still blushed, which made Elizabeth smile triumphantly, as though that was her whole purpose for teasing him. Then he mumbled quietly, refusing to make eye contact with either of you. I don't know why you'd think you're so funny when no one else does. Oof. Oh! I'll marry you, Cove. Oh, I really want to say that. What if I just do it? Should I just do it? Wait, I'm gonna save. I'm gonna do it. I've got it. He looked at you in disbelief. He genuinely could not believe this is where the conversation had gone. Don't worry over it. You can take as long as you need to think on that. Oh! Cove frowned and reddened harder, but pretended to ignore what you were saying. Your sister noticed what was happening. Oh, okay, no, we're teasing him. I don't want to do this. I'm going back. I'm going to ignore Elizabeth. Yes, let's ignore her. You said nothing, choosing to let your sister prattle on to her heart's content. See, I got to see it, and it was kind of awkward, so let's just not. You knew from years of experience that the best way to annoy Elizabeth was by not giving her any attention at all. Are you even listening? Huh? Did you say something? She huffed at you for that one. Okay, I'm not gonna keep second guessing myself. That was fine. No. Go back. Yes. Let's agree with Cove, see if he reacts to that. Cove has a point. That wasn't a great comment. Do better than that. Do better, Elizabeth. Elizabeth poked out her tongue at the both of you, giving you a sour look. Ah, okay, that's nice. She walked ahead, obviously not getting the responses she was looking for, and you and Cove swapped amused looks. There we go, that's nice. I'm satisfied with that one. The day continued on with plenty to see and experience. You passed a few different activities that you would have liked to try out if you had the time, such as kayaking and rock climbing, but Ma said that you'd have to wait for another trip. There was a little stream. You don't want to go like whitewater rafting? That's so much fun. I love whitewater rafting. There was a little stream during the walk that you sat beside and set out a picnic for lunch, nibbling on a selection of fruits, sandwiches and chips. That sounds good. Various birds flew by overhead, and you made a game out of guessing the species that were hanging out in trees nearby. You even managed to get a couple of them right, including the kingfisher that grabbed half of Cliff's sandwich. You're glad you got to do this in the end. You're disappointed to only have one day in the park. You thought the long trip wasn't worth it. Only one day here. I think it's still fun, you know? A lot of the time on trips, you only get to spend a little amount of time at certain places, but you gotta appreciate it while you're there, you know? You're glad you got to do this in the end. It was definitely a special experience and one you'd remember for a long time to come. You smiled to yourself, committing the sights and sounds to memory. Your group made it back to the camp just as the sun was setting in the sky and the stars were appearing one by one. Everyone had enjoyed different parts of it most. You traded stories of what you thought while you were eating dinner, then afterwards you pitched in to help clean up. Oh, I love the little sun sparklies. You, along with Elizabeth and Cove, got to head back to the RV early and spend some time together while the parents stayed outside longer. It was nice to have the space to yourselves after the cramped journey there, and while Elizabeth had locked herself in the back room with her headphones, you and Cove were left in the main lounge area. Yes! No, I'm gonna hang out with Cove! We might as well get comfortable. Who knows how long they'll be out for. Hi! I love your little pink pulley uppy thing. Oh, it's so cute. So cute. You took a seat on the sofa while Cove sat down on the other end, tapping his fingers against his knees. Your cheeks warmed a little at that. Being close to him never failed to feel exciting. You'd seen Cove nearly every day for the past 5 years, but seeing him in a jacket was still somewhat unusual. In Southern California, he could get away with that. It was not a simple difference from his normal style, but you couldn't help noticing the way he looked right now. It looked great on him. Oh, in fact, Cove always looked nice. This is so cute. When Cove cleared his throat, your eyes snapped to his. He had an eyebrow raised and had clearly caught you staring at him. Is everything okay? You averted your gaze from him entirely. Yeah, don't worry about it. That looks nice on you. Yeah, everything is really good. I'm gonna say that looks nice on you. Yeah, be honest. Be honest. It's clear you both like each other, so it's nice to compliment each other, you know? Oh. Cove immediately blushed at the unexpected compliment. What? He didn't say anything more than the one-word question. You decided to elaborate further. You know, I hardly ever see you wearing a jacket, especially in summer. Oh, yeah. I like wearing as few layers as possible. It's easier that way. I'd rather be cold than extra hot, and it's kind of a pain to carry extra clothes around. My parents made me bring this jacket. Honestly, I'm a layers person. As many layers and accessories as possible. But for the sake of relating to each other, let's just say I'm the same. They're bulky and heavy, and they usually make me feel too warm. That's a good point. You want to feel comfy. And to be fair, I do live in Australia and it's very hot here, so... Cove smiled lightly at you and nodded. I've noticed. This smile is so sweet. You perked up hearing that. He noticed you too? Oh, of course he did! Oh, yeah, okay. What kind of clothes would you like me to wear? You asked him what he liked to see others wear. Hey, what kind of things do you think are nice to see on another person? Cove's eyes widened at the question, and his defensive reply seemed to slip out before he had the chance to have a proper think about it. Oh no, buddy, you didn't think that one through. Nothing. Wait, hang on, that's not what I meant. That was funny. Yeah, that's funny. You laughed out loud and Cove gave you a dry look. Come on, that's not what I meant. You composed yourself and sat up straighter, all traces of laughter disappearing from your face. Answer with what you mean, with what you do mean then. Isn't there anything at all you think looks good when you see it on someone? Cove mumbled under his breath and you couldn't quite catch the words. He was having a difficult time with the subject. If it's making him uncomfortable, let it go. You didn't want to push him any further, so you didn't insist. The parents all arrived soon after, each of them climbing into the RV and finding some that was kind of an odd conversation, but like, okay. The parents all arrived soon after, each of them climbing into the RV and finding some place to sit down and rest their legs. Elizabeth, having heard the commotion, came out from the room for the first time since arriving and joined you all. You spent the evening chatting and playing a few games, enjoying the last evening of the trip together. Bedtime arrived within the blink of an eye. As the group hunkered down for the night, your mom did a final round to be sure nothing had been left behind. She explained that Cliff was going to start driving early in the morning, like on the first day, but would be letting everyone else in the group sleep. There wouldn't be a need for all of them to get up. Now was the time to check you hadn't left anything outside. You, as well as everyone else, were confident you had all packed up inside the RV, which meant it was time to get some rest before the journey home tomorrow. Your moms and Elizabeth said goodnight, heading to the back room while you climbed up to the loft. Cove and his family got situated in the previously set arrangement. You tried to get comfortable as a million thoughts were running through your mind. It was hard to believe that the trip was practically over, and before you knew it, you'd be back in your own bed at home. I think it was nice, a nice little adventure. It was short, that was for sure, but you got to see and do so much during your time here. All in all, it was a nice break away from home. The minutes ticked by silently. It didn't take long for the soft snores of Cliff and Kira to drift up to you. They were asleep now. You wondered if Cove was still awake and decided to poke your head out from the loft to find out. You blinked through the dark. Looking down the hall, you noticed Cove lying on his back, his eyes staring straight up at the ceiling. His seafoam hair was spread out on his sleeping bag. He must have felt you watching him, because suddenly his eyes locked on yours. It was difficult to see much in the dim light, but you could make out the crooked smile on his face well enough. I'm gonna wave. Cove waved back, still smiling at you through the dim light. Yeah, come over here. Cove looked unsure about it, but you were happy to see him slowly start to sit up anyway. His sleeping bag rustled as he moved, though he tried to go slow and froze up like a deer in the headlights every time he made a sound, watching his parents for any sign of movement. Eventually, he managed to maneuver around his sleeping dad and make it to the ladder, standing on the bottom rung where he looked up at you and whispered, I just wanted to say hi. What? I really want to find him up into the loft. Oh, come on, we've only got one chance. I'm going to save just in case. Save. Yes. Do you want to come up? His eyes widened just so. You could only tell because he had come to where you were. Cove glanced behind him, quickly at his sleeping parents before turning back to you. Okay. Oh, it's so sweet. You broke out into a grin and scooched back as far as you could, making space for Cove to crawl in. He was very tall, so it wasn't a great fit for him, but he managed to squeeze himself in. Even if you weren't exactly tall, the loft was still a tight squeeze with the two of you in there. Oh, this is so sweet. You laid down next to each other on your sides, face to face. He got under the blanket a bit. One of his arms was nestled under his head for comfort, and the other had nowhere to go and was rested alongside his chest on the floor of the loft. Cove spoke to you softly. What am I doing here? I thought we could hang out. Cove's eyebrows dipped. He probably thought you had something more important than that going on. I'm not sure about this. Cove swallowed loudly, and you noticed he wouldn't look you in the eyes anymore. You felt comfortable being so close to him. It seemed natural to have him near you, and being close like this only made it better. You thought back to the trip and the little moments you'd gotten to spend together with Cove. It just felt like this trip definitely had brought you together even more, and not just physically in the same space. I'm gonna nudge closer to him. You inch towards Cove slowly, your legs pressing together in the very limited space. Cove's face flushed dark enough to notice, even in the almost pitch-black RV cabin, the hand resting in front of him tightened, balling into a fist. You okay? I'm fine. I mean, I'm not dying or anything. What's that face, dude? Cove's eyebrows bent up nervously, but his smile widened. He followed your lead and curled himself deeper into the loft and closer to you. He looked away as he did it. There was almost no space left between he and you. Cove's breath tickled the side of your face. For a moment you stayed together like that. Neither of you spoke a word. When your eyes locked again, Cove seemed almost taken aback by the situation, as though it hadn't completely hit him what it was going to feel like to do this until now. He opened his mouth to say something, but shut it tight before anything came out. I can kiss him? Oh no, I really want to kiss him, of course. That would be so cute, but I also feel like he's already a little bit anxious in this situation, and I want it to feel a little more consensual than that, you know? I don't know. I think we're just going to snuggle up against him. Yeah, okay, no, I think that's cute. Okay, yeah. Okay, no. Yeah, let's do it. Okay. You closed the distance completely and nuzzled your face into the crook of his neck under his chin. It was warmer than you thought it would be. Cove stiffened up and let out a yelp, which he quickly bit down on his lip to stifle. He gave you an apologetic look. This still wasn't bad for him, just surprising. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay, now he's happy. Okay, now that's really sweet. It just felt like the right thing to do in the moment, I think. After a few more moments, he settled in, his breath deep and steady. He rested a cheek against the top of your head. You could feel his lips curve into a smile, and it made you happier to know he was enjoying the moment too. The two of you fell asleep before long, cuddled up together. When you woke up in the morning, it was to the rumble of the RV as it travelled the long journey home. You noticed quickly that you weren't as warm as you had been during the night, and when you checked next to you, Cove was gone. Blinking sleepily, you peeked over the edge of the loft to find out where he'd gone. Maybe he'd snuck back to his spot on the floor during the night. However, you soon noticed him sitting on the couch talking quietly with his mum, his head hung in embarrassment. Oh no. Your movement gave you away and Kira suddenly looked up and caught your eye. She simply smiled amusedly at you and it was obvious what had happened. Cove hadn't gotten away with it. They found him there in the loft and then you woke up while he was trying to explain. Oh buddy, I'm sorry. I still think that was kind of cute though. You knew it was going to be a long time before you lived this one down, if you ever did. Soon your mums and Elizabeth emerged from their room, dressed and ready for the day of travel. Okay, I think that was nice. I think I'm happy with that one. Yeah, okay, no, I'm happy. Maybe I'll go back and some other time and replay the kiss instead. But I don't know, I feel like we've still got another third of the game left. We can let it build up a little bit more, you know? You spent most of the day hanging out together in the RV, savouring the last few hours of vacation. Kira suggested a few different and he was like reciprocated that cuddling really he seemed really happy, so that was really good. I'm really happy with that. Kira suggested a few different travel games she used to play with Cove when he was younger, and you all had a great time competing against each other. A little later in the day, you tried to talk to Cove about what happened in the loft, but he simply apologized and changed the subject. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. It was a bit too much for him to try speaking on, especially right now. You understood. When the RV finally pulled onto your street, it was well into the night, and you were looking forward to crawling into your own bed after the last few days away. Everyone else must have been feeling the same, because it was mutually agreed that unpacking and cleaning the RV would wait until morning. Once home again, you went straight up to your room and dropped onto your bed, shoes and all. You were happy to be in your own bed. It felt weird to be alone. It felt good to be alone. You wished you were still on the trip. Oh, you miss being near Cove. Yeah, this one. The two of you had basically been living together for 3 days. It was nice. But you knew that it wouldn't be the last time the two of you would spend time together, and that thought comforted you. With those last few thoughts drifting through your mind, it wasn't long before you dozed off to sleep, tomorrow life would go like normal. Oh, that was nice. I'm really happy with that, actually. Okay, and then next time we'll be moving on to the beginning of step 3, but I'm going to save that for next time because my throat is starting to hurt a little bit. But thank you so much for hanging out with me, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that too. Our relationship is just so cute at this point. Oh, I can't wait to the next one. I hope I can fully just select comfortable love or whatever it is. Just have a happy little romance. Oh, it's so cute. And only a third of the game left to go. We're getting so close, guys. Oh, thank you so much for watching this video and hanging out with me. I'll see you all in the next one. I love you so much. Bye.